Running a small business means I wear lots of hats. When I put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn Hiring Pro to make it easy. LinkedIn Hiring Pro helps manage my hiring workflow, puts my job post in front of a unique network of professionals, and matches me with the best candidates for my business. I can also share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. No wonder most small businesses say they'd use LinkedIn Hiring Pro again. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
I've been in this library for 6 hours. I'm out of snacks and energy. Plus, I just realized I forgot to put deodorant on.
Oh, girl, you're a mess. Let's run to Target.
Let's RTT.
We'll grab some protein chips, body spray, and deodorant.
And we get 20% off with Target Circle, so we can get those great face masks for our self-care Sundays.
I love an SCS.
Let's get out of here.
College students get 20% off their next purchase with Target Circle. Subject to terms. Visit target.com/circle for more details.
Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hi, welcome back to Unbound, Season 4, Visible Daughter. I'm Beth Curry. This is our final episode of Season 4. Spent this season naming things that kind of often go unnamed, things I've called the apprenticeship and the mental load and the emergency contact role, the emotional janitor, a sandwich generation, the daughter's dilemma. I'm trying to think back. The guilt machine, the production line, the economic cost of invisible labor, the erosion of self, the burnout, the shadow that kind of falls across our most intimate relationships. I've named all of it because you can't change what you can't see. Today I'm going to talk about what comes after the seeing. 3 things. One is the permission, then there's the rewrite, and then there's the return. So I want to start with a word that has probably been used against you. Selfish. If you've ever set a boundary with your family, you've likely been called it. If you've ever declined a request or prioritized yourself or taken time for your own needs, you've probably felt it, even if nobody said it directly. Now, I want to talk about what selfish actually means. Not what it's been weaponized to mean, but what it actually means. Okay? Selfish means having excessive concern for yourself at the expense of others. Not having any concern for yourself at all, not setting boundaries that protect your well-being, not declining to sacrifice your health, your marriage, and your sense of self for other people's comfort. Those things are not selfishness. Those things are survival. Daughters who've spent decades with minimal self-focus do not become selfish by developing some. They become balanced, right? Moving from 100% focus on others to 70% focus on others is not selfishness. It's correction, And something worth noting, people who worry constantly about becoming selfish are almost certainly nowhere near actual selfishness, right? People who are truly selfish don't spend much time worrying about it. The permission paradox, you don't actually need anyone's permission to give a shit about yourself. You are an adult, okay? Your needs are legit. Your time and your energy belong to you. But you feel like you need permission because decades of conditioning have made self-prioritization feel morally wrong because family approval has been conditional on your selfless availability. And because every time you've moved toward your own needs, something activated inside you and made it feel like you were doing something wrong. So let me offer what I can offer, okay? You have my permission. Not that you need it, but if it helps, you have it. You have my permission to have needs, permission to set limits, and permission to disappoint the hell out of people sometimes in service of not destroying yourself, okay? Permission to be the kind of good that is sustainable rather than the kind that costs you every damn thing. Okay? You're not selfish for wanting a life. You are not ungrateful for having limits. You are not abandoning anyone by choosing to remain your whole ass self. Okay? The guilt will still show up. I'm going to be honest about that. And it's important. Giving yourself permission doesn't make the guilt disappear at all. The permission is real. The guilt's probably still going to come, and that's okay. The guilt's old programming, right? It runs really, really deep. It was installed young and reinforced for years, and it's not going to uninstall the moment you decide to do things differently. But what changes is your relationship to it, okay? Instead of the guilt telling you what to do, it becomes something you feel while doing the thing you've decided to do anyway. So instead of a stop sign, it kind of becomes background noise. It's uncomfortable, it's present, but it's not in charge, okay? This is what people who've done this work describe. Not the absence of guilt, but the development of guilt tolerance. The ability to feel it without obeying it, right? I talked to Adrienne. She describes her journey. I kept waiting for my family to tell me it was okay to take care of myself. I thought if I explained it well enough, they'd release me from some of the obligations. Finally, I realized they will never give me that permission. They benefit too much from the current arrangement. The permission had to come from me. The guilt didn't disappear, but I stopped letting it be the deciding vote. So once you've finally decided to do things differently, you need a strategy, okay? Because the family system is not going to simply adjust just because you've had this realization. The family script's been running for years and years, probably decades. Everyone knows their role. And when you step out of yours, the system's going to push back, and it's going to push back hard, okay? There's going to be a predictable pattern. You've probably seen it before and quit kind of in the middle of it. First, there's the guilt activation. After everything we've done for you, I thought I could count on you. And then the helplessness. We don't know how to manage without you. You're the only one who can do this. And then there's probably a crisis escalation. A situation that was previously manageable suddenly becomes urgent. The system creates emergencies to prove your presence is essential. And then, if none of that works, of course, there's going to be character assassination. You've become so selfish, I don't even recognize you anymore. And this escalation before adaptation has a name in family systems work, the extinction burst, if I could speak. It's the system trying to restore the old pattern before it learns a new one. And the most important thing to kind of understand about it, it means you're doing it right, okay? The pressure intensifies because the change is real. Maintain your position through this burst. The system will adapt. It always does. When it has no other choice, it's going to adapt. It always does. Okay? I'm going to give you the actual structure of how a script rewrite works. Okay? So phase 1, say documentation. Before you change anything, understand what you're working with. Okay? So track what you're actually doing. The crisis calls, the coordination, the emotional labor, the anticipatory management. Make the invisible visible to yourself first. You can't effectively renegotiate what you haven't seen clearly, okay? Then phase 2 is like vision, okay? You want to get specific about what you want the new pattern to look like. Don't be vague. You want to be damn specific here. So what hours are you available for non-emergency family communication? What types of requests will you continue handling? What will you decline or redirect? Specificity matters entirely. Phase 3, gradual implementation. So start small, obviously, not because large things don't need to change, but because small, consistent changes build the muscle and the confidence for larger ones, right? One boundary, hold it consistently, then add another one. And phase 4 is the teaching component, and this is what most people often miss in this process. Rewriting the script isn't only about what you stop doing. You have to teach other family members to do what you've been doing for them, because apparently they're just a bunch of dumbasses. So when a family member calls in emotional distress, instead of immediately regulating their feelings, say, "That sounds really hard. What usually helps when you're feeling this way?" Or when conflict gets routed through you, say, "I think you two should work that out yourselves and directly. I'm not the right person to be in the middle of all this." When someone presents a problem expecting your immediate solution, ask them, what options have you already considered? These are not unkind actions or words or questions or statements. They return people to their own agency. They refuse to enable the learned helplessness that develops when someone else always solves the problems first, right? And phase 5, maintenance. This isn't a one-time shift. Family systems test limits. They always will. Old patterns will resurface during stress. You'll need to recommit repeatedly, especially during a crisis when the pull toward the old roles is the strongest. You need to be consistent. Consistency is everything in these situations. I'm going to tell you about Lena. Lena spent 3 years doing a complete script rewrite in her family. 3 years. So in her first year, she says she documented and started small. She was unavailable after a certain hour in the evenings and no longer mediating specific family conflicts. And then in year 2, she worked at, the teaching component, at redirecting family members and asking questions rather than providing answers and requiring direct communication rather than going through her. And then she says in year 3, the shift happened. She said there was friction. She said it wasn't perfect, but the shift happened genuinely. Her family adapted, and they learned to communicate directly, and they developed problem-solving skills that they'd never needed before because Lena had always solved the problems first, right? Some relationships became more distant, she said, but all of them became more honest. She said the new script works better for everyone. I'm healthier, my marriage is stronger, my family is more resilient because they're not dependent on one person to keep functioning. I can be present for family without disappearing into family. And I think that last line is the whole season in one sentence. Present for family without disappearing into it. And I want to bring Brian into this one more time because his perspective on Angela's story speaks directly to this. We met Angela and Brian in episode 5. You know who Brian is to me. Brian's reflection on what his family should have done differently is something worth hearing again as we close out this season because it shows what the script rewrite looks like from the outside. He says, we should have created a rotation for visiting my grandmother rather than my mother going daily. We should have leaned harder on professional care. The nursing home staff could have provided much of what my mother was doing herself. And I never want to look back at my wife's life the way I look back at my mother's. I want her to be visible. I want her to be whole. So I'm his wife. It's me he's talking about. This is a man who's witnessed and learned and chose differently. And that's a big deal. He's stopping the cycle in our family with that. And he's showing Crew, that Crew needs to look out for his future wife. And this is what I've been building toward all season, right? What does it actually look like to become visible? You can't be perfect. You're never going to be conflict free. You're not going to be free from all obligation or family complexity at all, but you can be visible. And it looks like this. Say a family member asks, genuinely asks, not about what you're managing for everyone else, but about how you're doing. And when you hear the question, something in you relaxes that you didn't realize was actually braced, right? It looks like making a decision based on what you actually want and noticing that the guilt comes and you feel it and you sit with that for a second and you hold the decision anyway. And it looks like knowing what you like, what you find interesting and what kind of space makes you feel like yourself and what brings you genuine pleasure rather than just the relief of having met someone else's need. And it looks like being in your marriage fully present and not divided and not managing a crisis in your head while sitting at the dinner table. You're actually there. It looks like having something to say when someone asks what you want, right? It's that simple. Visibility doesn't require perfect family or the complete resolution of every complicated dynamic at all. It requires that you stay present to your own experience, your own existence, that you remain kind of a witness to your own life rather than only to everyone else's, right? It's the journey home to yourself. Well, if they're willing, bringing your family with you into something healthier. So I want to close this season by speaking directly to you. If you've listened to this season and heard yourself, maybe in the apprenticeship or the guilt machine or the burnout, maybe in the 2 a.m. worry spiral, in the question of who you are outside of your usefulness, I want you to know something. The invisibility was never your fault. You were trained into it before you were old enough to realize or recognize the training. It took me, pretty close to my 50s to realize that I had been trained. And if I had a daughter and had been training her, I wouldn't have known. So I think a lot of people don't even realize that this is happening. You were trained into it. It arrived like as praise and as love and as pride and belonging, and you didn't choose it. You just kind of inherited it, right? But you can put it down, okay? Especially if you have a daughter. Put it down. You know, don't put it down all at once, and don't put it down without grief for the years it cost you, and don't put it down without some relationships changing shape as you change shape. But you can put it down, okay? Your needs are not less important than anyone else's, and your time is not more available than everyone else's or anyone else's. Your worth doesn't begin and end with your usefulness, okay? You are not only the sum of what you've given. You deserve to be known, not just relied upon, right? You deserve to be known. You deserve to be asked how you're doing, not as a preamble to the real question, but as the actual real only question. How are you doing? You deserve to take up space. You deserve to have preferences, and you deserve to say no without a speech. As I have said many times, no is a complete and full sentence. You deserve to choose yourself sometimes without apology. Okay? You're not invisible to me. And I hope after this season, you're a little less invisible to yourself as well. Thank you for spending this season with me on Unbound. If this series has meant something to you, I would love to hear from you. I hope you share it with people who you think may benefit from it or might need to realize that this is happening in their lives and that they have permission to change it. We have a Facebook group if you want to join that. We discuss all the episodes, all the seasons, all the off-script episodes, all of it. All the information is in the show notes. If you want to support the show, the production costs, I pay for this out of my pocket. I like to help people. I like to share. I share my work for free. I don't write books anymore because some people can't afford books, so I decided to just do this as a free way to help people, in any way that I can. But I still do have production costs, and if you want to help support that at all, you can. I do have subscribers only group, but I have limited that to a certain number of people, and we don't have any openings right now. But those people get to see video podcast versions, the video version of the podcast. So when there's openings there, I'll announce that. But everyone's pretty happy in that group, so I don't know. Maybe I'll open up some more spots. Don't know. Anyway, all the contact information, everything is in the show notes. Don't know, what's coming up next, but the off-script episodes will definitely continue. If you have any ideas for things, for episode ideas or anything like that, I love to research. I love to talk, apparently. But only into a microphone. Otherwise, I'm just a listener. Just send them my way. And I am still giving away gift cards for contributions that become episodes. So there you go. I will see you when I see you. Please take care of yourself too. I mean that. You're not invisible.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.